Dr. Elmer, Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, and this is Ask the Doctor. What is normal and why is it so important? Is there really normal? Aren't we all different? Yes. Are there some parameters that are important to understand clearly? Yes. We tend to say, like blood pressure, we tend to say it's normal is 120/80. I guess they're starting to change it to 120/70. Well, we know what happens if things get bad. We know what happens if it goes too low. If it goes too low by under 90/60, the brain can't operate on that. It's not getting enough oxygen. It's not getting enough exchange of bad stuff, and the brain will shut down. And anesthesiologists watch for that. So if it goes too high, it's very interesting. The inside of the blood vessel is called the endometrium, and it's been relabeled a gland just recently. And what it does is it causes a release of several hormones, including nitric oxide, and which is very, very important. And if the pressure isn't high enough, it won't release those. And if it's too high, it will kill the endometrium. So keeping it in that certain birth is going to be vital for a long-term health. What is normal with the physical body in terms of structure? Say, well, straight up and down, right? Eyes level with the horizon, the head over the center of the body, over the center of the pelvis, over the center of the back, the back of the front of the ankles there. From the side, it should be straight up and down. From the front, from the side, our head should go through those same points. So, in what is normal, you say, well, do we give numbers to it? We try to, but it's really not that. It's really not that kind of a math problem. It starts off as a geometry problem. What is the thing that would make the strongest curve system in your structure? It's actually that your system is like a circle, right? We got the curve. Let's say this is your neck. Your neck. Okay? And that is top and the bottom. Well, this is a part of a circle. And when we look at it, we got a center point, and that's a radius, and a radius. That was a bad arc. Okay? So we have two radii. And then when we look at this part of the triangle, this is called the chord of the curve. Now, the strongest chord from a geometric point of view and from an engineering point of view is where the chord is equal to the radius, which would make us an equilateral triangle. That is the geometry of it. From there, we could start doing the trigonometry, but everybody's built a little different. So saying it's a 35-degree angle is kind of irrational, because the length of everybody's necks are different, and in fact some of the necks are different later on in life because of loss of disc height, because of damage, which you have not just I've lost some from every disc, but now I've lost some from one at a much higher rate than the others. And so that once you get that part of the equation, which is the chord is equal to the radius, now we can start to do the actual trigonometry and come up with the number. But the normal is about keeping the pressure completely off the spinal cord. It's about giving it the biomechanics, which we have already talked about biomechanics, giving it the biomechanical optimal position to be in. And one thing to understand from a neurological point of view that we haven't talked about in relating this to the biomechanics, to the neurology, the neuroscience of all this, the primary driver of your brain level of drive, we call it the central integrative state of your brain, is gravity. Gravity is pulling down on you. It's affecting your head sensors. It's affecting the position of the head, which affects your, the position of your eyes in order to get your eyes on the horizon. It's pulling down on the structure of your body, pulling on the muscles of your body, and you have little tiny sensors in there called muscle spindle fibers, and they are sending radical amounts of information into the spinal cord up to the cerebellum, and the stuff that's on the right goes to the right cerebellum, and then it crosses over and goes to the left and turns it up and on. And then the same thing happens on the left. It turns on the left cerebellum and it turns on the right cortex. And that's why when you wake up in the morning, you're really tired and groggy, and you can't think, you can't smell, you can't see, you can't, nothing, right? And then you get out of bed and all of a sudden you power up, which is exactly what's happening. Gravity's pulling down on you, and it's turning up your nervous system. And being up is a big part of being awake and alert. You watch people as they stand, and you'll realize if you look real closely, they're not standing rigidly still. They'll be weaving a little bit, and there's a natural weave that actually keeps us awake and alert and alive. As I come this way, I stretch muscles, turning up some of those muscles, which turn up my cerebellum, which turn on the cerebellum, okay, and then it's got greater tone, so then I turn up over here, and it turns up the brain on the other side, and so that weaving back and forth causes more of that awake and alertness, in our system. And so that ability to maintain that is dependent upon how normal the structure is. Say, well, everybody's built a little bit different. Like let's say the semicircular canals. They're usually not at the absolute 90 degrees that they were, and then the eyes are actually supposed to be in the same plane that those sensors are, and then your whole body is set up biomechanically with the muscles in your body to respond to those neural inputs that cause you to be upright versus gravity, and to avoid falling when you get disrupted. Well, you say, well, they are a little off. Okay, but your body is designed, your brain is designed to realize that, and to make the programs that make it so that it acts like it's absolute normal. And so by going through your developmental process and forcing it to have to do more and more and more, it becomes more and more like you have absolute perfect system. Say the common one I hear all the time is about a short leg. And there's plenty of studies that talk about short leg, and that people have a short leg. And say most of that is a structural aberration that has to do with the pelvic tilt and rotation. It's rotation of the sacrum, tilt of the sacrum, all of that. Okay, all of that. But then they say, well, there's also a leg length difference. And to that I say, maybe. But they are the first, all these research papers are the first to say, we don't know if it makes a big difference. And to that I say, it doesn't. Because your brain is wired to compensate for it. To get your uppermost. To get you balanced and to get you to respond to your world. And that's what neurology is, right? It's the stuff that's coming in and my response to it, right? My motor output. And it relates to the stuff that's in between that crunches the numbers. And when it's not perfect, the brain over time will learn, you know what? It's not perfect, but if I do it this way, I can respond to my world totally appropriately. That's called a Kalman system. Like the shuttle. The shuttle has a Kalman computer system. It has logged every mission that has ever been done by a shuttle, all in one computer. And so it knows it's got all these sensors, and the sensors are only going off when something's changing. So let's say we have 3 sensors. We have this certain problem that we're going to have to deal with, and we only have these 3 sensors that are telling us information, but the computer can go back and say, okay, the last time we experienced this and we had those 3 sensors and we needed to do this, we did this and it was successful, or we did this and it was unsuccessful, but then we did this and it made it successful. And so it's able to do that. Well, our Kalman system is our vestibular nuclei, and those vestibular nuclei in the mostly in the medulla, but also in the pons, they are 4 little nuclei that gather all information, bring it together, crunch the numbers, and give us our posture, balance, tone of the muscles, and rigidity of gravity rigidity against gravity, and that. So, why is it important to get as close to the normal as we can get? Well, it's the optimum of function, but so often how far off we are is creating all the symptomologies that brought you in, right? And so we start to change all of that, and we bring you back to not just okay, I don't have the symptoms, but to where you never need me again. I like that part even better. And so that understanding what normal is vital, and getting the patient as close to normal as possible, but then also forcing the nervous system to have to compensate for any abnormality, anomaly, and any other factor that we're not going to truly completely fix. And that. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, you might have a lot of questions on that one, go for it. Feel free to ask. Remember, at Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, we're here when you're ready to take your life back.